Yo, 1 second. There we go.
Hi.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can.
Love it. That's
How
awesome.
how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks.
Hell yeah.
Finally trying to get some food into me, which is terrible because it's 4 o'clock and that's like the not good timing on my part. It's been such a crazy day.
Yeah, I know that feeling. Believe me. I guess it's just intermittent fasting, right?
That's what I end up saying. Okay, well, I guess I just fasted for the day. It wasn't necessarily on purpose, but hey.
Exactly. Just chalk it on up to intermittent fasting. There we go. It's a diet now.
It's so weird. It really does help with clarity. I did not think that that was really an accurate thing until I started accidentally doing it. And I thought, well, actually, it does help.
No, I totally agree. It's like I drink the coffee that I drink in the morning makes me not really hungry all day, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I do the same shit and I think that it actually helps. At least I'm gonna say that.
I
Cuz
know. I'm,
cuz I'm not going to stop drinking coffee. That's for
oh
fucking
no, no, that's not even part of the solution at all.
I agree.
So you're in Tennessee now, correct?
Yeah, I live just outside of Nashville.
So is that I think it's so is it 5 there now? Just an hour later?
Yeah, it's 5.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay. Okay, nice. Do you like it there?
I love it here. It's gonna be hard to peel me out of this place, honestly. It's kind of like,
Really?
yeah, so I grew up in Iowa and I lived in California for 12 years, and this is kind of like the perfect intersection of those two places. Like you've got the like California, Nashville country thing going on, but you've also got the down home, like everyone's really nice and
Mm.
it's more Midwestern than California, which is, I'm Midwestern at heart. So
Right. No, that makes sense. What about weather? I actually don't even know how the weather is in Tennessee. Is it I mean, I guess Midwestern weather, right? Probably all over the place.
pretty much it's all over the place. It's a little warmer. Like for
Oh,
instance,
okay.
today is freezing, but 2 days ago it was like in the 70s. So it
Oh.
hops around for sure. In the summer it's super muggy. There's some days where I don't want to go
Mm.
outside. But honestly, so I lived in Santa Cruz, California. It's Northern California, and there aren't really seasons there. It's perpetual autumn. So I missed that a
Oh.
lot. I missed the weather changing thing because like I said, it's what I grew up in. So
Right.
I'm happy to have it back for
I'm
sure.
happy to have all the different seasons again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it sounds like it's nicer there than it has been here. We haven't even hit 70 yet. I'm in Boise. And
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's been, I mean, we've had some like 60s, but we haven't even hit 70 yet this year.
What's Boise's weather like? Is it kind of, I mean, it's like Salt Lake, right? Kind of.
Yeah, it's we get 4 seasons as well. It's this winter has been a little bit it was a mellow, but it's overstayed its welcome, it's stayed a little bit longer than what like it just snowed 2 days ago, I think it
Oh
was.
shit. Okay, no,
Yeah.
I don't want that. I don't want it to snow here. I'm okay. Like honestly, Nashville, there are probably like it snows so little that there's not really the infrastructure to take care of it
Mhm.
because it like snows one day and a couple of inches and 2 days later it'll be gone. So they just take the days off and I'm into this kind of snow. Like I get to see it, it's cute, and then it goes away, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy how much weather can change in from area to area. Even like we're just a little bit outside of Boise actually.
Mhm.
And even from Boise to we're more in like a country desert part of the area. Even just the I mean 15-minute, 20-minute gap between the two, we can have totally different weathers.
Oh, that's crazy. So wait, what's on the border of Idaho? What's north of you guys?
On the border, like the Canadian border?
Yeah.
Or
Oh, it's the Canadian border.
no,
Okay, I'm
no, we're in like the mid western part of Idaho. We're like right in the middle. I'm sorry, I thought you meant on the border of Idaho. Of us, I mean Boise is the pretty much it seems like the only place anybody knows about in Idaho because
Yeah, because we
Idaho.
drive through it. I drive through it sometimes, but I was just wondering if you guys are close to Montana because Montana's weather is super fucking erratic. Like last year, okay, I think we started a tour. It must have been the middle of April last year, and we were driving through Montana to try to get to Utah. And the weather was so bad that every highway was being closed on the way out there. And it's like absolutely insane. So I don't know how far you are away from that, but it's like,
Yeah, it is crazy in Montana. We're probably, I mean, we're quite a bit away from it. Montana mostly is the northern part of Idaho, which is like Coeur d'Alene and Sandpoint in that area. And then it does dip down more to obviously the eastern part of it, which is more like the Pocatello, Idaho Falls part. So we're probably like 5 or 6 hours away from that hecticness.
okay, so even it's like in 5 hours. That's how hectic it can get
Yes.
within 5 hours of driving. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane.
Montana, yeah, is like crazy when it comes to snow and that kind of weather, and it is bear country. A lot of bears up
Oh
there.
yeah. You know what? I'm actually talking about Wyoming, but it's similar. It's the same. It's like the
It's
same area.
all in the
Yeah.
same area.
Yeah. It's nuts up there. And then you go into Canada and it's like even scarier in the middle of the winter. Like I honestly, those are the parts of the country that during tour, it's like I'm petrified when we drive through those areas, especially when we're doing it at night in a van,
Yeah.
just through mountains and crazy weather. It's like I get those are the drives that I do not look forward to as someone with like car anxiety, which is
Hmm.
weird that I do this for a living with like being anxious in a car, but I don't like driving up there most of the time,
I don't
honestly.
blame you. I don't blame you. And honestly, I think that's probably why we get skipped for a lot of tours because the weather is so crazy. And plus, it's so spacious, you know? It's weird. Yellowstone, the national park, it's on the edges of Montana, Wyoming, and Idaho. So Yellowstone is
Oh,
actually in all three states. So we are all kind of obviously connected.
totally.
But car anxiety, I'm gonna drop into that. I'm a mental health therapist outside of this, and I have
Oh
extreme
wow.
anxiety myself. So is there somewhere that stemmed from, or is that just something that's always been there?
So like I said at the beginning of this, I grew up in the Midwest and it's the Great Plains.
Mm,
So my entire life, like anywhere where we drove, because we didn't travel far, we would only travel to like Kansas City or Minneapolis, which is basically within 4 hours of us and still the Great Plains. So I was not used to driving through mountains or any of that stuff. I didn't even see a mountain until I was 21.
yeah.
So, and that was in Salt Lake City. I remember the first day I saw a mountain. But I just was never used to driving through that kind of terrain. So it's like through touring and exploring the world more, I'm obviously faced with going through that type of terrain all the time. And it just gives me some anxiety to be flying through the mountains, especially if they're like compromised conditions. We've been caught in some crazy conditions touring and in a van, and then with a trailer, it's added anxiety. So it's really that I think that it's just not something I grew up being
Hmm.
used to. So it scares the shit out of me if I'm driving through like down a mountain. Everyone's going super fast. There are a ton of curves and it freaks me out.
I thought you meant just driving in general, but you mean driving in the mountains. No,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
grew up here and I still feel that way. I still get nervous driving like through the mountainous areas that yeah, you can't see around the corner. And so that's always nerve-wracking because you don't know if someone's going to come flying around the corner, if they're going to be on their side of the road.
Totally. I know. You don't know what you can only do what you can do. You don't know if the other person is like compromised or what's going on. So, especially like I was talking about driving through Canada. So we did this drive when we were on tour last year that was from maybe Edmonton to Vancouver, and we had to drive overnight. So it was like through a mountain pass in Vancouver, and a really good friend of mine had been in a band that was making the same trek, and they ran into a moose, and it like totally fucked them up. It was on a 2-lane highway, and so that just, I was up all night, like worried about a moose
Oh
going through. And
gosh.
at the same time, it's like you're driving in the dark on, I'm pretty sure it was a 2 or 4 lane highway. And at that time of night, the only other people who are driving are semi drivers.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you're only driving face to face with a truck driver, and that can be pretty scary as well. It's
Mm-hmm.
the dark, it's sort of freaky, honestly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And adding wildlife into the mountains, which they're always going to be in there. Oh my
I
goodness.
know. I know. Yeah, it's
My
a
my my dad had a truck that he had hit a deer in that he had, it was a brown truck, but he had a black panel from that had bust, that obviously didn't have a black panel originally, but it
right.
ended up having a black panel afterwards because he had hit a deer and the panel busted off, and we used to call it our hit by a deer truck.
Dad got run over by a deer.
Right. They got the song wrong.
Yeah, totally. That's
And not the
hilarious.
first one he hit either. There's, yeah, that's definitely a concern as well. I get it for
Hey
sure.
man, my grandma, you, right around Des Moines where I grew up, it's just woods. So I'm used to people running into deer.
Mm.
It's a thing.
Oh, was that nice though? Like, was it walking distance to the woods?
No, where I grew up, it's walking distance to cornfields.
Oh,
You would have to drive a couple of miles to get to the woods, but yeah.
so you just have to worry about the children
Yeah,
versus the
exactly.
animals.
Exactly.
So the album's been out for a little over a month. Um, did you have any idea that you guys were creating something so special that people were gonna lose their minds over?
No, are people losing their minds over
Have do
it?
I know that you are so good. You guys both are so good about interacting with fans and being present, which I'm sure can be exhausting at times. But yes.
That's amazing to hear. No, I think that when Naveen and I write stuff, we are just writing stuff that's from our hearts. And if anyone can resonate with the weird music that we write, that's the coolest thing ever. And to hear that is amazing. I hope that people like it. And yeah, I don't, there's nothing more you can do. It's like when you create an album, you're doing it because it's something that you love doing, and then you push it out into the world and it sort of belongs to everyone else.
Mm-hmm,
The same as it belongs to us.
mm-hmm,
So I never know what people's response is going to be. I'm really excited. We're starting a tour next Friday, and we haven't toured in the States since it came out. So I'm really excited to see, if people dig it or whatever in real life. But that's super awesome to hear. So thank you.
yeah, no, I guess I just assumed you knew. Yeah, I was going through and looking through. I like to try to get, some research in just to see how people are responding. And usually when I look at responses, there's some negative ones, or there's some that are people are like, "Oh, they're kind of doing something different than what they usually doing," or "I'm not sure if I dig the direction." And I saw zero, and I was just like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know if I've ever seen that before."
Wow, that's so cool. And we kind of we did some different things on this album. Like
Mm-hmm.
we started to incorporate singing, and instead of incorporating a lot of electronic elements, it's all like instrumentation and guitar, and there's acoustic guitar. And
Yeah.
we kind of went way more rock and prog than we've ever gone before, but we also went way heavier than we've ever gone
Mhm.
before. So that's so cool if people are digging that, because it kind of is symbolic for us in the way that we feel like we can really write the music that we want to write, and we're really excited for whatever we do next.
Yes. No, I agree. There was a lot of different elements, and they all fit so well. Starting with the acoustic part at the end of the second to last track. I just forgot. I know it starts with the.
Oh
I
yeah,
just
Sinking Sun.
Sinking Sun. Thank you.
Yes. Mhm.
You know it.
I do. I
The
do.
the acoustic part that goes into the title track. I mean, it sounds like it's one, song, and then it goes into your beautiful clean vocals, which people again were just not really shocked, knowing that you're obviously fully capable as a vocalist overall, but shocked at how much they probably resonated with it, because that's not something you've done before.
Yeah, that's so cool. I've I've always wanted to sing in the band. I just never wanted to force it into a thing that it didn't fit in. And I just didn't feel like it totally fit with the band until this album, until it was Naveen and I writing together and truly writing something that not only was coming from him musically, but also represented me musically even more than anything we've done before. So it's really exciting for me to be singing on our stuff and to know that people dig it, and it's not like, sometimes when bands add singing into their sound that they've kind of established already, people sort of freak out and don't,
Mm-hmm.
and there's not always a good response to it. So I would be lying if I said that I wasn't sort of like, I was waiting for I Am the Void to drop that music video, just kind of sweating. Like, I wonder if people are going to like this. This is, yeah, it's so new for us, but it's really cool that it seems that people have been digging it so far. So I'm excited to just dig more into that
Is
territory.
is that one you're planning on doing on tour?
Yes, we're
Cool.
we're actually we're playing it for the first time ever 1 week from today, live. I've been practicing it nonstop. I'm so excited to do it live. So
Oh, I bet it's
yes.
gonna be amazing. Well, I have to ask along with that video too. How uncomfortable was the black tarness that was going down your gullet the whole time? Was that was that uncomfortable? It looked so uncomfortable. It was really
Oh
a
yeah.
cool effect, but I thought, when you take a step back outside of what you're watching theatrically and go, oh my gosh, that poor girl is just getting drenched with this black goo.
I know, totally. It was so obviously I was the only person, like it was a room of people and then me being drenched in this goo. And I couldn't see after like the first take of it. I was so covered that I just couldn't see anything. So honestly, in a way, it was uncomfortable for sure. And I'm gonna be real with you. I swallowed so much of it that I like was dizzy afterwards and felt sick for the next like 2 days.
Mhm.
But there was something about it that was super freeing. Like I was wearing a mask or something, and I felt even more capable of the like acting and reaction to the song that I was doing in the video. So I'm really grateful for that part of the goo. But yeah, it was hella uncomfortable. My whole outfit from that day is totally ruined, and I had to run to the shower right away. I was like dyed blue and just got
Oh,
the color red. But
oh my gosh.
it's all for the art.
Right, absolutely. And it was really cool. It was really cool. I think I watched it differently initially, just as like a theatrical performance, and then when I knew I was going to be talking to you, I thought I watched it differently. It was like a whole different, like, that's a person.
Yeah. That's a person, and Naveen was literally on a ladder above me with a very small bucket, just like pouring that stuff on me for like 2 hours straight. It was a whole drama, the goo, like the whole day. So we had to test out the floor of the studio because they had something going on the next day to make sure that the goo wouldn't dye it, and it would. So we had to like find this paper to put under me to make sure that everything was fine. Allie and David, who shot the video, like, and Rob, they're a guy who works for them, like cleaned up the goo all night for like an hour and a half after yeah. So stuff like that it's not just a small deal. It takes
Right.
it, you have to deal with it. And yeah, it was a whole production. And Naveen, like, we were given this list of ingredients to get to make the goo, and it was super expensive. So Naveen was like, fuck that, we're gonna make it for very cheap. And he like came up with his own recipe for goo the night before. So we were just in our house like making a bucket of goo, this huge fucking bucket. So yeah, it was awesome to do. But it turned out really cool. I'm stoked on it, and
Doing
it's a
like
day a day to remember.
doing a science project the night before,
I know,
calling out
that's
guar.
totally, that's exactly. You know what's funny too is that the 2 days before we shot the video for Absolute Zero, which is the first single, and we actually shot in the second half of a day where the first half they were shooting Lizzie Hale for a Guar video. So it
Oh,
was like really
yeah.
funny that we were doing that shit. But it's crazy you don't realize like all the school experiment stuff that will come in handy when you're doing stuff that has nothing to do with science,
Right. I
later in
hated
your life.
chemistry back then. I'm okay with it right now.
I know. Chemistry was the first thing I failed ever in my life. I
Oh
hated
my
it.
gosh, that's so funny. I struggled really hard through chemistry too, and I really liked science, but there is something about chemistry that is just hard. Like I think it's either you get it or you don't, and it's a hard subject.
It was the math. The math was way too
Yeah.
complex for me. It's like
Mhm.
it just goes above, like I'm interested in math to a certain degree, but it goes way above my interest in math, and it just could not hold my fucking I couldn't hold my attention long enough to figure out what this times that. I don't care about any of that. I gotta be real.
No, I know. I had a good friend in my chemistry class with me, and for whatever reason, our chemistry teacher would just have us like we had these like journals, and it had a whole bunch of homework assignments in there. Boring. And we would borrow one of our friends' notebooks, and all we had to do was copy it word for word. That's all we had to do. And instead, we would sit there and talk about like, I just want to throw the teacher out the window. I'm so tired of chemistry. And then we would like play video games. All we had to do was copy. It wasn't even that hard.
What's
But
weird is one of the first bands I was ever in, my chemistry teacher, who was the first person to fail me ever, her son was the guitar player of my band. So we would go over to her house all the time to practice. And it was
like,
so weird. It's like seeing a dog walk on their hind legs. Like I think that's a Mean Girls quote, actually, seeing a teacher outside of school. It was so weird. Like this is my chemistry teacher in her house. Like
we were like
very
payback.
yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna scream in your house, lady. That's what you
For
get for
failing me.
failing me.
It doesn't matter that I wasn't doing the work. You failed me, and this is
Yeah,
what you get.
exactly.
Yeah. So you obviously have been into metal for a while. I believe you had said teenage years. Is that accurate?
Very accurate. I started going to metal shows when I was like 12 or 13 in Des
Hmm.
Moines. And it was like Slipknot had just blown up a few years before I started going to local shows. So the scene was thriving in Des Moines back then. I could go to a local show pretty much every weekend. So that's what I did.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So I'm curious if you had the same experience as I did. I mean, I'm in Idaho, so we don't have a whole lot of diversity here. But I guess in Iowa, I don't know how diverse musically it is either. Clearly metal was a little bit probably more prominent than it was in my country town. But were you one of the only females in that scene back then, or were you in an area that had more female metalheads?
Um, I was definitely it was definitely more of a majority of guys, but there were women in the scene. Like
That's cool.
there was another band that had a woman, a girl, named Vanessa, who was doing vocals. I think it was called like Victim or Victory. So they women were in the metal scene. It was
That's
definitely
cool.
few and far between. I think that, you know, just more guys are drawn to metal a lot of the time, I think, or at least back then that was the case.
Mhm.
So there were just fewer of us. And it's still like, even at metal shows now, I think that it's probably, if you weigh it out, it's more guys a lot
For
of the
sure.
time, but there are way more women than there used to be. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was just curious. When I was younger, I would try to, I mean, even to my male friends would try to like introduce whatever I was listening to at the time. I started with like White Zombie and Corn and Coal Chamber and more of those types of things because I was a teenager in the 90s. And people would just look at me like I was crazy. And at one point, I had a friend say, "You're gonna have a really hard time finding someone who like wants to date you and stick around with the kind of music that you listen to." And I didn't. I guess I don't know if I realized how weird it was until that statement. And so I'm always curious when it comes to females who started their journey, which most, female metalheads did start their journeys in the teenage years. I'm always just curious what their experience is, because mine was um not pleasant.
Yeah. Most of the people that I hung out with, I think that maybe because of my interests, it's like I've always hung out with more guys.
Mhm.
Just even when I was a kid, because there were more guys into metal. And whenever there was a girl who was like super into metal, I wanted to be friends with her. It's like, fuck,
Yeah,
we should team up. But in
right.
high school and stuff, people definitely were like, why do you wear so many black shirts? Like, I remember I would just wear band shirts every single day when I was a teenager and when I was like 12, 13, 14. And people would try to like give me money to wear white shirts or something that wasn't a band shirt and stuff like that. So you definitely do. I definitely did kind of feel like, I don't know if I really totally felt like an outcast, but I did feel like I wasn't doing the thing that like is normal
Mhm.
for girls to do. I definitely felt that. And the older that I got, the more I embraced like I guess that and my own like femininity and being a woman and stuff like that. But yeah, there are always it's always been less women for sure.
Yeah.
Less women have been around, but
Yeah.
I guess that's why like I'm always, for instance, we're taking a woman out on merch on this tour that we're doing. I'm always trying to like be around more women and have
Yeah.
more women involved, and it's always super super cool to me to
Yeah.
like be on tour with another woman because I've I've been touring for with Entheos for the past like 9 years, and I've only been on tour with another woman maybe 3 times.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's definitely it's definitely still dominated by men, but
Right.
like I said, I think it's becoming more and more of a common thing, which is incredible to
It
me.
is. It
Yeah,
is. And all the conversations that are being had on m- not only being more all inclusive, but also not making that separation, like just, human to human. I think it's pretty cool. And I think it helps, hopefully, more women feel more comfortable and confident in enjoying what they enjoy versus, like some of the experiences we had of feeling like shamed for liking what we liked.
totally. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it becomes more of an
Hmm.
embracing culture all the time, and that's really cool for
Yeah,
sure.
I agree. I agree. So you've obviously gone through something very traumatic, and I know that this is something that you've talked about before with your accident in 2021. What I would like to know is what are some things you did to overcome? I mean, because that comes with some like PTSD, that comes with some severe trauma, that a lot
Totally.
of people probably maybe don't know if they haven't experienced something traumatic like that. So, what are some things you have been able to do to overcome um, all of that since the accident?
Finishing the lyrics on this album, that was a
Hmm.
huge cathartic thing for me, and the album became, you know, mainly about that accident and everything that I've learned since then, and just things that as you get older, you just start to think about the fact that you're not going to live forever
Right.
and all of the things that come along with that. And the accident really made me think of all of those same things. So I wrote about time. That's what the entire
Hmm.
album was about.
Hmm.
So that really helped me. I don't know that I can say that I'm totally over it yet. Like you said,
Yeah.
there are a lot of like things that people don't think about, and it was something that happened to my face. So it's something that I see every single day, and I'm like confronted, like, whoa, my nose is still broken, and just stuff like that. You just don't know how you're going to deal with it until it happens to you. And I have a friend who got into a super traumatic accident years ago, and it affected her face. And I never really like, I've felt more for her as time, like
Hmm.
about her situation as I've dealt with this, because I'm like, it's one thing to like break your arm or get a scar on your back or something that people don't see every day, but to have it
Hmm.
happen to your face is a very different experience.
Hmm.
So, I don't know that I'm over it, but what I
Mhm.
do, I just try to focus on positive things in life. Like I've never wanted one experience to be something that I harp on forever and that defines my existence.
Right.
So that's really all that I think I can do is like focus on all of the positives. Like the fact that my voice could have severely been messed up over this, for the first like month or two, I had no idea if my lips were going to be okay, if I would have been able to do vocals anymore. I was kind of settling into like maybe I'm not gonna let maybe there are certain things I'm not gonna be able to do
Mhm.
vocally anymore. So I really try to be grateful for the things that I didn't lose over this. It could have really messed up my face. I could have died. A lot of things could have happened. Luckily, I got out pretty unscathed. And yes, this thing happened to my face. That's definitely something that I have to deal with. And, I still feel numbness in my,
Mhm.
there are other like weird sinus things that have happened, but for the most part, I'm okay. And I've watched really good friends of mine. I watched my dad. He like ate, I don't know if you're familiar with what cold pasta salad is, but in the Midwest, there's
Oh.
like this yeah, there's this
Mhm.
cold pasta salad, and my dad ate some of that, and he got salmonella, and it attacked like a part of his spinal column,
Oh my god.
and rendered him essentially quadriplegic.
Oh my gosh.
And they thought that he was never going to walk again, but he and my mom were determined that he would walk. And my dad can walk now. This happened,
Oh wow.
I think it happened like 5 or 6 years ago. But what I'm trying to get at is that I've watched people in my life who I really admire go through crazy, crazy things.
Mhm.
And the fact that they've been able to overcome that makes me look at my life and say, you know what? I can get over this. This is just a bump in the road.
Mhm.
So, long story short, I really think that it's choosing to focus on positive
Mhm.
things rather than the negativity. Because, dude, it's easy to get caught up in bad things that happen to you. It's
Mhm.
very easy to let that define who you are. My
Mhm.
parents did this, my ex did this, whatever. Shit
Mhm.
happened in my life. But I want to be a person who moves on and becomes
Mhm.
stronger because of situations.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And that's really what it boils down to is we can't control the things that happen to us, but we can control how we respond to them. And what a beautiful response you have had. And I know obviously that it doesn't come easily, of course. So it's very inspirational to watch how you respond to yeah, a very traumatic thing that happened. And yeah, it might be something that it might be something that you might not ever fully mentally or emotionally recover from, but you're seeing all the beautiful and wonderful things that came out of it, and I think that's just so inspirational.
Well, thank you. I'm just trying to live a good life. It's like just like the album talks about, like we truly, it's cliche to say, but we truly only get to live one time.
Hmm.
And I just don't want to be on my deathbed
Hmm.
like thinking about all of the things that could have been and thinking about all of these crappy things that happened. I want to be proud of my life and
Hmm.
proud of the person that I was. And I like to think about things on that level, you know.
So do you find, I'm curious, just because of the way that you talk about things, I'm curious if you and Naveen have like philosophical conversations and in-depth conversations just about life in general.
Oh yeah, all the time,
Yeah,
constantly.
not
Uh
surprised.
we both love to talk about that kind of stuff, he's gotten into like different philosophical concepts, like, he's read the Bhagavad Gita a million times and has gotten into religious things in that
Mhm.
way, and I'm way into other styles of philosophy. I studied philosophy for a bit in college,
Oh,
so it's very, very much a part of what we talk about constantly. Yeah, for sure.
that's cool.
Hmm.
I think that's probably one of the many reasons that make you guys such a power couple, with your very, very very talented, many aspects of, I mean, obviously him with being able to play anything and everything remarkably well. And then with you, with your vocal instrument, being able to do so many different things with your voice that is, I mean, you keep throwing more and more surprises, you know, and I know that you, that comes with practice, obviously. You know, when people say, oh, is it just natural, I know that you definitely practice a lot, and that's not said, things like that don't just come natural, you know.
That's true.
Sometimes.
I think there's like a certain amount of natural talent that people get, but it's like there has to be a saying about this, but if you don't like run with that and practice it all the time, then it's, you know, there are a ton of people born with talent, and there are a few people who choose to like actually chase it, I think.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's not, natural talent only exists to a certain degree, you know.
I agree. I
So
agree. Yeah.
I agree with you.
And with it, as much as you guys both do, you know, keep throwing surprises, you can tell that you guys are just very hardcore musicians that love what you do. But it doesn't surprise me that you guys have that philosophical aspect to your, you know, duo as well, for so many different reasons. You can even hear it in the music, but obviously especially in the lyrics.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you. That's cool that it's coming across, because I love to write about stuff like that, and I love exploring the bigger picture. And it's funny, my mom has found lyrics that I wrote when I was like 8, and it deals with the same kind of stuff, like
Ah.
you're not going to live forever, you know, just weird stuff like that. So I think that it's something that's always been at the forefront of my mind. Like I've always been into the existentialism of life,
Mhm.
and what is life for, and what happens when we die, and all of that kind of
Mhm.
stuff. So it's cool that you can hear that in the lyrics that I write.
Yeah, oh no, definitely. But even an extension of that in the music, and it's weird to say that because um music is, you know, isn't words, but also we, yeah, I know, you know, that there is definitely a still, I don't even know what, it's a language all in itself. And so the
Oh, totally.
progressiveness of your challenges and changes throughout the melodies and the music and everything on top of the lyrics is just an even bigger extension of that. It's so interesting. It's so interesting.
Hell yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So what are some things that you do for self-care?
Oh my god. Well, I at the most basic level, I like get massages, and
Good for you.
and read books, and you know, try to like do masks and get my nails done and
Yeah.
do stuff like that. But on a more like uh emotional level, I go to the gym a lot. I think that
Mhm.
I think that going to the gym really has a lot to do, or just working out, getting in some form of exercise has a lot to do with, you know, what's going on with you mentally. It's
Absolutely.
super important. I like to eat well, and I
Hmm.
think that that really plays into it. I don't know. I just kind of like stay out of drama and things like
Hmm.
that, and try to keep like draw and just feed myself on an artistic and emotional level, and
Yeah.
like not get too caught up in like the bullshit of life.
Yeah.
You know, the day
There's
to day,
plenty.
like,
There's plenty of
yeah,
it.
there are plenty of things. There's so many distractions. I try to just like, you know, if I'm on the internet, I post something, try to get off. Like I'm not gonna
Hmm.
read what's going on. I don't want to like be have to deal with like other people's stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just try to like do my thing. I think that that helps a lot. And you know, just working out is like meditating and doing
Hmm.
stuff like that. Just taking it easy, living that Tennessee lifestyle.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Reading, I don't want to take up too much of your time because I'm already taking up a lot of your time, and I
No,
swear I
don't
could
worry
just
about it.
talk to you for hours because you're so much fun to talk to. Um, Reading, what are some things that you enjoy reading?
I enjoy reading all kinds of things. You know, so I've always heard of the book A Child Called It, and I am
Oh,
reading it right now. Oh my
heartbreaking.
God. Yeah. So at night, honestly, I'm like crying
Oh
before
yeah.
I go to bed reading that book. I like reading like psychology type improve your mind
Mhm.
type stuff. And I like reading some fiction. It just kind of depends. I like
Yep.
reading Alan Watts books, and I also like Isaac Asimov science fiction
Hmm.
type, Philip K. Dick and that realm of
Oh,
stuff.
he wrote one of
I'm
my
looking at
favorite
my
books.
What's your favorite?
Do androids dream of electric sheep?
Right, that's what Minority Report is based on, right? The movie.
Blade Runner, but I won't watch
Oh,
it.
Blade Runner,
I
right. Why
won't
did I
watch
not
it
say?
because I'm so scared it's going to screw up the book for me. So I won't watch it.
You've never seen the
I
original Blade
know.
Runner?
I
Oh
haven't.
my God. I can promise you, as someone who has read that and watched the movie, it's not gonna mess it up for you.
Okay.
It's a fantastic movie. The second one I will not watch, the newest one, but the Harrison Ford 80s one is
Worth
I
it.
think that you would enjoy it. Yeah, I mean it's a work of art for sure.
It's one of those that, I mean, obviously is a huge movie, but I had heard that they didn't do, I don't know if you remember the book that well, but remember the dials on their backs where they would dial their moods?
Yeah, yes.
I heard that they didn't have that in the movie, and that bummed me out because I loved that aspect of the book. I thought, what an interesting concept.
I can't remember if they have that in the movie or not. That's a
Mm,
small detail, but
yeah, yeah. To me, I just thought that was such an, I guess, because I'm a girl, so I remember my teenage years of being super, super moody.
of
Not
course.
that boys aren't. I have a teenage boy right now. He's super moody. But it was more talked about with women. But I thought it was such an interesting thing to. Who wouldn't want to just be like, I don't want to feel like this, so I'm gonna just twist the dial to feel happy. But in the book, the woman did the opposite. She wanted to feel down, and he was like,
Right.
"Why?"
Right. Yeah, I, as
Human.
also a woman who went through those emotional teenage years, I would have loved to change my mood a lot. But, I think that there's something like this has stuck with me my entire life, like kind of that teenage melancholy. Like, I don't know if you ever got super into like Sylvia Plath
Oh
or any
yes,
of
the
that.
bell jar was
See,
like my
okay,
Bible.
all right, all right. We're best friends now. Fuck. It's like that was my Bible too. And you know what? I went back and I read it like a year ago and I was like, I still fully resonate. I still read
Mhm.
Sylvia Plath all the time. It's like that like melancholy like
Mhm.
girl thing that happened in my teenage years. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie The Virgin Suicides,
I
but
haven't. I've heard of it, but I've never watched it.
in my teenage years was like my movie. And
Mhm.
there's an aspect of that has just never left me. I'm still kind of that doomy gloomy, like I love sad songs and
Mhm.
sad stuff, but I'm not like I'm not really a sad person, but all of
Mhm.
that stuff resonates with me still in a similar way to when I was a teenager.
It's
I
almost like
just
a weird comfort, like a weird comfortable hug.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. Absolutely. Like I don't know, there are so many movies like Girl Interrupted and stuff like that
Mhm.
I would just watch over and over and over, and it's like a part of my psyche, I think, part of who I am still to this day.
Yeah, yeah. No, I absolutely resonate with that as well. I my undergrad is actually in psychology, so I love
Oh
to
wow.
read psychology books as well. And Girl Interrupted was based on a real story. There was only one psychology book that I actually couldn't finish because it was so heartbreaking. I got to a point where I was like, I don't think I gotta stop doing this to myself, and
Yeah.
it was based on a true story too. But it was called When Rabbit Howls, and it's such a heartbreaking book that I one of these days I need to just go and finish it, but it's so hard to get through. It's like A Child Called It, but like on steroids.
Oh my God. Well,
Yeah.
like I said, currently reading A Child Called It. I don't know how it could get worse than this book.
Uh,
Uh, but there are points where I'm reading this book where I'm thinking about the mental torture I'm putting myself through.
yeah.
Like, why
Right.
am I doing this? Why am I
Right.
doing this? But there's a part of it that's just so like, first of all, fascinating to me, but second of all,
Hmm.
it makes me feel more for the world. I think I
Yes.
like watching shows like intervention and hoarders, just to try to understand,
Mm-hmm.
what goes through people's minds, what causes these sort of things. And there's a weird fascination to it. And just it makes me feel really for children out there.
Yeah,
Like a child called it. I'm just like, I wish I could adopt
I
every
know.
kid in the entire world, like
Yes.
who's going through something like this, because this
Oh
is
my
fucking
gosh.
terrible.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mentioned before I'm a mental health therapist and I work with kids every once in a while and 99% of the time it's the families that they're surrounded by and it's so difficult not to just like can I just gather them all up and move to another country without any
I
without it's
know.
so hard. It's
I think that when I'm watching intervention, or I have a fascination with watching like documentaries about addicts and what
mhm,
got addicts to that point. And I mean, almost every episode of intervention without fail, it's like, you know, Kimmy was such a great young girl and
mhm,
she had all of this going for her. But then her dad, blah blah blah, or her mom,
mhm.
blah blah, and it's something that like goes through generations and generations.
Yes,
Her mom is probably acting like that because of her grandmother, and
right.
so on and so forth. So yeah, it's I don't know. There's something so fascinating to me about it, but it really makes me want to help people. So I'm
Yeah,
sure that for you, that's I'm sure that the job probably has an emotional toll
for
that
sure.
it takes with you, but at the same time, you're helping people, and
Right. No.
that to me is like the best kind of job that you can have, is one where you're helping another person.
For sure. And I think I agree definitely. I think music is one of the biggest parts of that as well because it's a universal language that connects people. You I'm not sure I oh, my watch does this. I swear every interview, my I don't know if I'm just moving around way too much, but my watch starts listening and starts trying to answer whatever we're talking about. It freaks me out every time. Um, and now I just derailed myself. But yeah, it's something that helps us get through hard times, especially when we're kids and we don't have a trusted adult. We don't have a safe place. We don't have, a therapist, like whatever it is. We always have music that's always within reach, and so I 100% feel the same way about music. It's my therapy away from therapy. So I extend that same thing to you. Thank you for helping out so many people more than you probably even recognize or realize.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's music is 100% my therapy as well.
Yeah,
When I started listening to metal when I was a kid, I was an emotional teenager, and it got me through so much stuff, and just
yeah,
music in general, not just metal. It
yeah.
means so much to me. Like still, I love when I wake up in the morning, I just like turning on music, because there's nothing that makes me feel like listening to a podcast in the morning will kind of set me off in a weird on a weird day. Like I don't want to hear other people's thoughts first thing in the morning, but
Mhm,
music just always sets me up for like a really really good day.
mhm,
Um and it's crazy that that's like one thing that just never changes. No matter how
mhm.
much music in general changes, the feeling that it gives you, it never goes away. And
Yeah,
that's one of the coolest things about it. I still feel like that little kid who was discovering all of this stuff for the first time, and it's like my favorite drug.
right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's the one thing that we all can, even if we don't agree on the same type or style or whatever of music, it's all something that we all can, for the most part, agree that it is important. It is something that we love. You had talked about before about watching hoarders intervention, things like that, to better understand people. And I think that that's something that we all should be doing all across the board, is trying to educate ourselves on things that we don't understand versus judging, because people are so quick to judge versus take a step back and try to understand. So I think music is one of those barriers, or not barriers, but one of those barrier releasers. I can't think of the right word. Something that takes away those barriers because there's no judgment within, I'm trying to figure out how to word this. Um, Within the cultural aspects of it, it's music, you know, so
Totally.
we can all come together with that versus pick apart our differences.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, metal or music in general just brings a bunch of people together. And yeah, it's a universal language. You go to a festival, you'll meet a ton of people. Whether you guys are there to see, one of you is there to see Bring Me the Horizon, the other one's there to see Cannibal Corpse. But,
Hmm.
we can still become we like heavy music,
Yeah,
we're just picking each other apart at that point if we're like talking about if we're telling each other to fuck off over different metal bands.
right.
But I've made all of my best friends. I met my fiance, everyone I know almost, except for everyone I know except for my family, who's a very close friend of mine, is through music.
Yeah.
And that's to me something so beautiful and so
Hmm.
powerful. And it says a lot. It speaks for itself.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And it does seem like I used to say there's so much less judgment in the metal community, and I think it's because it's full of outcasts, you know, outcasts all trying to come together. I have since realized that there was quite a few years that, you know, there's obviously people that are even fighting just within the metal community, but I see that starting to slow down again and go back to just metalheads being able to be metalheads and not care what type of metal, you know, just embrace each other.
Totally.
I'm seeing it turn again, and I really hope that that's how it keeps going, because I think it's so important, especially with us outcasts, to stick together. Like, we can't outcast our outcasts.
I know I always say that. I always say that. Like, really, you guys are hating on it's like the tech doom death slam scene is hating on the deathcore hardcore scene. It's like, you guys, we're really niche. There are about five of each of you. We don't need to fight each other over this shit. It's
Right.
really not that important. We should all be coming together because this world is so small, but it's full
Mhm.
of a lot of like-minded people, a lot of people who, like you said, felt like outcasts or felt, they wanted to an emotional outlet in a
Mhm.
different kind of music. And we all do have, we're more similar than we are different.
For
So
sure.
I think I agree with you. I think that it's important to understand everyone, even outside of music, to
Yeah.
try to understand where everyone is coming from,
Mhm.
because being human is really weird and it's
Mhm.
really hard. And none of us are experts at this. All of us kind of suck at it, honestly. It's like it's a very strange existence, and we're all just
Mhm.
kind of trying to make our way through. And of course there are some cruddy people out there who do weird things to get by, and but everyone has a weird point in their life. So I think that it's important to really try to understand where people are coming from,
Yeah.
um and try to see it from their side.
Yeah. 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 I always think like, when you think of a baby and you're like, babies aren't born to be shitty people. Like,
Yeah.
you know, they're created into shitty people. And so what are you going to, as an adult, continue to be what your nature and nurture unfortunately created, or are you going to try to rise above that and be um a better human and support, you know, our fellow humans? It shouldn't matter like where you were born or what, you know, your upbringing was or how much money you have or any of that kind of stuff. It's so crazy, all the things that separate us, when, like you said, we're all so much more similar and none of us know what we're doing and none of us
Yeah.
get out alive, right?
Yeah, true that. None of
That's
us,
the whole
not one of
point.
us is getting out of here alive.
Time will take us all.
That's right. So true. When I came up with that title, I was like, there's nothing more true than this statement.
Yeah.
It's literally, that's it. We're all leaving. And
Yeah.
no one's really going to remember most of us in 100 years.
Mhm.
So I think that it's most important to live an existence that you're proud of. Be
Yeah.
kind to people
Mhm.
and treat people the way that you want to be treated. And I wholeheartedly believe that the energy that you put out into this world gets reciprocated. I
Yep.
think that everything is circular. It all comes back. And, you know, if you put good energy out into the world, then you're going to receive that and good things are going to happen to you and life is going to be bright for you.
I agree.
So just be about it, man. It's not
Right.
hard to be nice.
I know. You're like the hippie metal gal.
I,
No,
kind
I
of,
love
yeah.
it. I knew I went into this, hearing so many lovely and wonderful things about you. So I was really excited to talk with you, and I wanted to talk to you more on a personal level, which is usually how my interviews go, anyways. But because I just heard over and over and over how wonderful of a human you are, and so I wanted to dig into the humanity of you,
Oh,
So I
yeah.
appreciate you letting me do that.
Of course, anytime. I'm always down to talk about, you know, life or anything. I love talking about this stuff. It's like my bread and
Um,
butter. So it's really awesome to talk to someone about this stuff, you know.
yeah. No, it's sometimes hard. It's hard to get people to want to dive into those topics, whether it's because it's kind of more foreign to them because they just don't necessarily take the time to think, about those things, or they're just uncomfortable with it, or whatever the reason is, or you just do that kind of surface talk that's just more natural or more comfortable. But I think it's so important to have these deeper conversations with people in general. My husband and I are a lot like you guys. We like to have those deeper conversations and like to watch like A Waking Life and What the Bleep Do You
Oh
Know,
yeah.
and those type of documentaries that make you
Oh
really
hell yeah. Yep.
make you really think and open up that part of your mind. Plus, I'm a huge reader too, so I could talk to you for hours just about books in general. Um, but yeah, I very much enjoyed this, and I hope to be able to chat with you in the future about whatever you guys are going to be doing next, and I'm sure is going to be just as fantastic. This album is just incredible. It's crazy. It's one of those that you just don't know what's going to happen, but you're going to like it. You don't know what the next melody shift is going to be, but you know that you're going to be stoked and that it's going to be good.
That's so awesome. Thank you so much for the kind words. It really, really means a lot. Like I don't even know how to react. But yeah, we're just really proud of the album. So it's so cool that you feel that way. Thank you. Thank you.
Well,
I
it's
really
definitely not just me. There's a lot of people that, like I said, are just really blown away by it. You guys are extremely talented in what you guys are creating and doing. And I know that you just released this, and I know that it takes a lot of time and effort and you're going out on tour, and it takes a lot of time and effort to create the next one. But I'm really looking forward to the next one.
Oh yes, I am too. Can't wait. Can't wait.
Awesome. Well, I hope you have a really good evening. I've very much enjoyed this chat and hope to chat with you in the future.
I hope that you do too, and I really hope that we get a chat in the future. Yeah, very much looking forward to the next time.
Same,
So,
same.
th- so thank
Thank
you,
you.
Nika. Have a good one.
You too. Thanks so much.
Yep.
Bye.